Welcome back to the $1 million Tipping Point podcast. Today we have Tina Powell on the podcast. And not only are we going to be giving you advice on how to grow your business to 7 figures per usual, but I hope we're going to learn a little bit more about Tina and how she can help you specifically. And what we want to go into, or what I want to go into, is Tina is battling lung cancer, and we're going to talk about how does she stay motivated throughout that. We're going to talk about advice for her for working with co-founders, because she has 2 co-founders, and hopefully get to learn a little bit more about the financial technology and services industry, which she markets to or markets for. So if you're looking to start your online business, head over to corporate2contract.com, download the 14-day sprint to starting your business. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for the Tipping Jar of Wisdom, where as a podcast subscriber, you get access to exclusive content every Thursday straight to your inbox. And if you want to connect with me, Instagram at Virtually Kiri or LinkedIn, Kiri Mohan. All right, Tina. Tina Powell is a partner. Now she's also the chief of community at Intentionally, the growth engine design consultancy firm transforming the way financial technology and financial services companies approach marketing. Welcome, Tina. Give us a little bit of background on Intentionally and what your business does.
Sure. So Intentionally bought my agency, C-Suite Social Media, in November of 2022. And before, first of all, I just want to say it's an honor and it's a privilege to be here, Kiri. So
thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. Thanks everybody for listening. I'm really excited for this conversation with you. So my firm was acquired by Intentionally. Intentionally was co-founded by Kelly Waltrick and Megan Richter. So most of the industry knows of Kelly and Megan. Kelly was the former chief marketing officer for Orion. She was at Janney. She was at eMoney. Megan Richter, her co-founder extraordinaire, was also at Orion. They both hired C-Suite Social Media. We had the opportunity to work years back. I was doing like a very small project for them. And I just knew I was always impressed with their level of execution, passion, commitment. We shared a lot of the same values, and we were able to really, like thoroughbred horses, we were, able to keep up with each other and could kind of, was really, sprinting to finish lines. And I haven't looked back since. I've been so honored to be here. Intentionally, we're right outside of Philly. So, most people in financial services, again, have heard our name. We were only 2 years old, Kiri. We're only 2 years old. We have so much runway in front of us. It is an unbelievable, blessed, and fortunate time to be here in this company. We have almost 25 full-time employees. We represent almost 50 companies in financial services. Some of those companies are fintech, hybrid RIAs, independent broker-dealers, payments. And we're really fortunate that we get to work with entrepreneurs, a lot of the kinds that you've been interviewing, who have a growth mindset. That's our non-negotiable. You have to be willing to grow and stretch. And, we ignite our clients with an unbelievable team of designers, writers, strategists, account managers. So, we're surrounded by almost those 25 full-time employees, and then almost 20 independent contractors. Today, as we know, as you talk about all the time on your podcast, Kiri, that, the working environment has changed so much. There are plenty of people who are in business for themselves that say, hey, you know what? I want to live in Costa Rica and I want to work for 15, 20 hours a week, and that's it. But I'll give you the best when I come here. So I feel very, very, very fortunate to be here.
So how long did you have your own business before you met Kelly and Megan? And you said you'd worked with them earlier. So how did they come back to you at some point and say, hey, actually, we'd love to buy your company? Or did they say, we want to work with you more full time? Like, how did that happen and transpire?
Yeah. So we've known each other for almost, I want to say like 8 years. So we knew of each other. A lot of women in the financial services industry, we have been really fortunate that through social media, through events, through conferences, through networking, through workshops, that we've had the ability to, be on stages and speak with one another. And again, like, fangirl everyone else. So I knew of Kelly and Megan years ago. I knew that they were starting their agency, and I was already talking to them then. I was like, wow, you guys are going to be unbelievable. The two of you of a powerhouse. So I just knew that we were going to eventually wind up together somehow. But in the beginning, it was just Kelly and Megan, and I was running C-suite concurrently. I did C-suite for 5.5 years. I spun out of a traditional REA where I was a partner, head of business development for 7.5 years. Every prospect, every new client, every client meeting came through my desk, and I was, part of those meetings. So I decided to join intentionally. 2022 was a fantastic, fabulous year in terms of growth. We hit that $1 million mark, but then I also knew that it was it was time to rethink what the future was going to look like.
And what were your options when you were thinking about what the future would look like?
Yeah. So the first option that I had was to make C-suite social media more of a lifestyle business, and to really cut the number of clients and dedicate myself to very few projects. So that was the first. The second was to join another agency and to bring my so-called book of business and have that integrated in an already, service model agency. So those were the two options. And the third option is like, hey, walk away from everything, decide to get out of agency work. It's very taxing. It requires a certain personality, a certain skill set. So I taught at NYU for 2.5 years. So I taught in the graduate program over there. So I loved that experience. So, maybe making a full immersion to teaching, I gave myself the ability to just think out loud. I left nothing off the table, nothing. I just let my brain wander and adventure in my mind. So those are only three. Kiri, there was 20 different things. We are never stuck. You are never stuck. If you're curious and willing to learn, you're never, ever stuck.
I like that. But what's interesting to me is one of the main options was to create this lifestyle business. And another option was to, get your business acquired and bring it into another agency, both which seem kind of not opposite, but one sounds more relaxing. One does not sound relaxing at all. So what was the final clincher, the final decision that made you say, you know what, I'm going to go into letting, intentionally acquire my book of business?
That was impact. As a lifestyle business, I was capped. I was capped at the amount of resources. I was capped at the amount of opportunities. My own business philosophy is that a small business attracts a smaller client. As soon as C-suite social media, when we were a team of 8, the assignments, the opportunities, the pipeline looked way different. So I love this work. I'm okay with the cadence of it and with the demands of it. I'm a Scorpio. I'm the sign of the fire horse. Anybody that knows me will tell you that this has been the way that I've always operated. I'm not I want to do more. I absolutely love the work. And I love the impact. Our marketing agency, and again, the two of us were so aligned. We change the trajectory of a business and a brand every single day. That has a trickle down effect to every single person that's employed by the brand, the people that brand or company serves. We literally change lives. It sounds so cliche, but Kiri, because you talk to business owners and entrepreneurs, having a business, and you're a parent too, right? You've got two kids,
Mhm.
right? Having a business is like having a baby,
Mm.
right? My
I
daughter,
never got that. I remember when I'm very, very early in my career, I had a woman, a client who didn't have any kids, but she was like, my businesses are my babies. And I just like didn't get it until I had kids, and then realized like, oh my God, it is very true how much time management and how much just everything that goes into a business and your part of your heart and soul goes into it. You know what I mean? I get what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
for me, look, I mean, we all need to keep a roof over our heads. There's lots of things that, financially, that money is a mechanism of how you take care of yourselves, how you love your family. It's a freedom of expression. For me, it's not about the money. For me, it's always been about the impact. Nothing makes me feel more fulfilled, Kiri, than being able to have a positive effect in a person's life and being able to change their business for the better. That to
Mhm.
me is like, wow,
Mhm.
that's mind blowing.
And I think if you have that feeling, you are going to be driven by something so different
Mhm.
in your business that I don't want to say like you can't help but succeed, because then that's like such a blanket statement. That might not be true, but I think you're more likely to succeed if you have that drive for impact, for change. Yesterday, I was on my group coaching call leading them, and I went through this stuff. And one of the participants just, wow, that blew my mind. I never thought about it like that. And I just was like, I'm making an impact. I changed someone's life and the way they thought about their business, and that wants me to keep going. That drives me to continue. So I think what you're saying is just, it's so true to make that impact. It's just so important. Why didn't you think though that maybe you could build an agency yourself? Were you just like, no, that's not for me?
Well, first of all, I think I'm proud of my age. I'm 56 years old. So, as your listeners are hearing this interview, I'm at a certain point in my career where I've been very fortunate. Again, I've done a lot of things. I got a lot of education and job experience under my belt. I've got a master's from NYU. I have a business degree, a Series 65 license. Like, I've been able to do a lot of stuff. But then there's a point in time where, you can be taught new skills, right? Yes. But there's a part where you really have to know yourself and you have to know what you're great at. And Kelly Waltrick and Megan Richter together have built an amazing team of elite marketers that care for each other, that genuinely like people. Like, it doesn't even feel like work when it's harmonious like that. Do I have the skill set to build a team? Yeah, Tina has a skill set to build from scratch organically by herself a small team. But again, if your wish is to go next level, you can't do everything great at the same time. So I'm still very much a practitioner, a podcaster. I'm responsible for a lot of exciting activations and new projects and platforms that we're building here at Intentionally, to take our clients to the next level. You can't do that while you're still trying to build a team and build an intentional culture. So that's why I decided, Kiri, that there was a part of the business that I wanted to focus on. And it wasn't I felt that there were people who were much better at building and assembling a team. So yes, I compliment that team. As chief of community, I'm here to nurture that team, to grow that team, to support that team, and to be a team player. But it takes a very specific skill set to be able to assemble the right team and have that probability of success so right in the beginning. Kelly Waltrick is a master at that.
What do you think are some things you've seen that Kelly has done as advice for our listeners that you think could really bring about this intentional team and really make it work well?
Sure. I'd love to kind of tell a story around that. So John DeVincent just started last week. He's our new chief growth officer. And Kelly and John worked years ago at eMoney. And John hired Kelly over at eMoney. And John has been very expressive about this. And he said, as soon as he hired Kelly, he said, oh God, I just hired my replacement. Okay. So it's interesting how like the karmic cycle kind of came back and how Kelly wound up hiring John. And, so the piece of advice and the main takeaway to all of the listeners is this: hold on to those relationships, all your relationships, all your job experience, everywhere that you've been, and the people that you've been lucky and fortunate to encounter along the way. Hold on to those people and continue to build those relationships and keep in touch with people. You never know where that is going to lead in the future. So don't discount things. Don't talk yourself out of it. Just hold on to those relationships. Kelly is just like, wherever she's gone, she's made a mark, and she's like, she's impacted. I would say the second piece of advice is this: Kelly lets experts and people work their magic and do their thing. She's not a micromanager. So she gets it right the first time by hiring the right person, putting them in the right seat on the bus, and giving them wings to fly.
Do you have any advice for our listeners on getting acquired and selling your business to a company? If you could distill it down, if that's even possible.
Yeah. You, first of all, you want to be a lean, mean fighting machine. Get your financials in order, because the person that, or people or group that is acquiring you will want immediate access into your QuickBooks. That might mean hiring a bookkeeper. That might mean running reports more frequently. So in C-suite social media, I knew exactly. I was able to go into QuickBooks. I had a bookkeeper. I ran my P&L reports. So, a lot of times you're paid on a multiple of revenue. So you need to have accurate books and records, and they have to be so tight. And also too, the acquiring company is going to want to see what your business looked like 3 years ago. What kind of operator are you? What kind of business leader are you? What kind of manager are you? Your financials, and we know this, Kiri, you know this more than anybody. Our financials tell a story about us. So you better make sure that your books and records are iron tight. And again, if this isn't your skill set, it's not, I will be perfectly honest, it's not my skill set, but you know what? I hired around it. I found a great bookkeeper that we were together. We were in a mastermind. I trust that person with my life. I still trust him, right? And I surrounded myself with good people. I work with a CPA. I'm not a CPA. Work with a CPA who is willing to sit down and talk to me and not judge me on questions that I felt that maybe were stupid, or maybe that I should have known the answer. I let that person, guide me. I was willing to take advice. So you've got to eat a piece of humble pie. If you're thinking of positioning and poising your business for a merger or for acquisition, get ready to eat the biggest piece of humble pie that you've ever had served in your life.
Oof. Oof.
Sorry, but I mean, it's the God's honest truth, right?
Yeah.
You can see the trajectory. A good Our financials tell a story. They tell even a qualitative story. You can see the growth. And now with artificial intelligence and machine learning and all of these other, fancy schmancy technologies, all I need to do is export my financials into CSV, and somebody could run AI around it, build pivot tables, use Tableau to segment and whatnot. Yeah. So get those financials in ultimate, the best shape that you possibly can, and get someone who really knows what they're doing to help you. Don't do it alone.
That's actually, when I go through my groups and my coaching, it's one of the first hires I tell everyone to make, no matter how small a business owner you are, unless you're an accountant, I guess, yourself, or a bookkeeper yourself. Try to hire someone, because it can get really, even just for taxes, you got to hire someone. It gets really confusing. It gets it gets hazy, especially if that's not your skill set that you're good at. It's advice, as you see, that goes throughout your entire career as a business owner. Just hire someone for the financials if you're not into the financials yourself. Just do it.
There's just no way that we can do everything right. And financials are like the DNA of our businesses. The other thing that a good bookkeeper will do is that they'll find sources of new revenue. They'll help you change your business model if you have to make a pivot or if you have to make a tweak. They'll be able to give you information. You'll think differently about your business. So I highly recommend that move.
When you had C-suite social media, were you also targeting financial technology and financial services, or was it a different market?
It was, yes, and targeting financial advisors, mostly RIAs. Those are registered investment advisors. They have a fiduciary oath. It sounds like a big word. They are held legally to a fiduciary standard, which means that the products is the wrong word. The investments and the strategies that they recommend are in the best interest of the client, and they're not selling commission product. So I'm not going to put you in a Tina Powell, XYZ fund. If I'm a fiduciary, I'm going to say, oh, Kiri, there's this fund, Tina XYZ fund, and there are other funds that are like XYZ fund that might have a lower, cost basis. So their duty is to be more of a guide and a true advisor to help you make good financial decisions. That's the business model around registered investment advisors. They're getting paid on the advice that they're giving you, not the amount of the underlying investments.
Okay. I wanted to talk a little bit briefly about the lung cancer journey you've been on. I think this could be valuable to our listeners who are facing any kind of external event outside of their business. How long have you been battling lung cancer, and how do you keep the motivation to go to work, to keep showing up for work and giving your best when you're battling something so heavy and so much of your energy might be going to it?
Sure. So this is actually going to be a very empowering part of the talk. And I want to answer a lot of the questions that are on everybody's mind right here. No, I don't smoke. Anybody that has lungs can get lung cancer. I'm at the time of my diagnosis, which was in January of this year. I was riding horses 3 times a week. I was doing Pelotons, Latin Pelotons, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I'm active. You can see that I'm not obese. I'm not overweight. I don't have a weight problem. And I've been working out for forever, actually, since my first pregnancy, when I gained like all that weight, and it was like, oh gosh, for the first time I had to figure out how I was going to lose that weight. So I went for an executive physical. It was my dream. It was my gift to myself. Selling your business, ladies and gentlemen, is a really tough thing. It's a tough thing emotionally. Like I said, it's your baby. I went through a very, 2022, we had our biggest growth. And then, again, poising our business for acquisition from intentionally. I wanted to get checked. I felt like 55 to me was like the line in the sand where, hey, I was going to my GP and my GP was telling me, okay, just like keep your weight and watch your cholesterol and watch your sugar and all of that, like fun and Skittles and rainbow kind of stuff. And I said, you know what? I always dreamed that I wanted to go for an executive physical. I checked it out the year before and none of it was covered by insurance. So
Can you
these,
just briefly tell our
yeah,
audience what is an executive physical and how is that different from just like,
yeah,
your annual physical?
sure. So uh, an executive physical, and I'm like labeling it like that. I went to the Princeton Longevity Center. So it is a whole day immersive. Imagine going into and checking into a day spa, right? And you get a facial and you get a massage and you're there and you get a lunch. A day long physical, an executive physical is like a day long or half day physical where they go above and beyond the types of tests that would be on a regular physical. The main test that I had, and I had many, was what's called a CT scan. A CT scan will look at your bladder, your kidneys, your lungs, your hearts, and they're able to go inside your body. So most people have seen that, like that image of being in like a tube and kind of like MRI-ish. So that's what it is. It's done under no anesthesia. But what they also do is they insert like an intravenous and it's called contrast. So they put dye through your body to see how, things like light up on the thermal imaging. So it is a CT scan. That day, January 22nd, 2023, that was the day that I went to the Princeton Longevity Center. I gave the gift of myself of good health. I said, hey, let me just make sure that I'm healthy. I feel good. There were a couple of warning signs, like I fainted in a restaurant. I thought it was because I was doing like an intermittent fast. So I went and I had this scan done. And at the end of the day, I sat across from Dr. David Fine in Princeton, New Jersey. He showed me 2 screens and he showed me my lung that had a suspicious area. These kinds of things are not necessarily for lung cancer. It's not necessarily detected on an X-ray. I've learned so much, Kiri, so many people that have lung cancer that have never smoked. Partially it's due to radon exposure. I believe that that's where I had it. I worked from my basement for 10 years and my next door neighbor died. And so did the person one house over behind me. I believe that absolutely there was a link. They also asked me what I did for work, if I worked at a chemical factory, where was I during 9/11, all these kinds of crazy, crazy questions. So one thing led to another. I was diagnosed with stage 2 lung cancer. I immediately went and sought treatment at NYU Langone Health. I was lucky enough within 4 weeks of my diagnosis to have part of my lung removed. So I'm missing the upper right portion of my right lung that had the tumor. So long story short, right? After that, I had chemotherapy. A lot of people ask, oh, did you have radiation? No, I didn't have radiation because there was nothing to radiate. The idea was that they were able to take the tumor out of me. Lucky enough, and this is also too like a big takeaway, ladies and gentlemen here, make sure that you're keeping up with your health. You never, ever know when you're going to need a major operation. And if you're in really good health, which I was, thankfully, and the location of the tumor, they fast-tracked me through the system. Again, I was riding horses. I was doing Latin Pelotons. I'm taking good care of myself, right? I was able to have that surgery, and that surgery literally saved my life. Okay.
Mm.
I went for chemo afterwards. And when you have a cancer right now, the last scan, I get scans every 3 months of my lungs, my chest, my torso, and my brain.
Mm. Wow.
I get blood right now every
But that's
6.
now covered by insurance, right? Because now
That's
that you
now
had
covered
that,
by
yeah,
insurance. Yes,
yeah,
that's a very, very important thing. Another takeaway from our conversation, and Carrie, it was so great that you just mentioned that, is your healthcare and your benefits. Understand, like, that is worth its weight in gold. That
yeah.
is more valuable to you than the amount that you're getting paid. So if you're looking at salary negotiations, if you're changing your position in a company, you might want to look at your healthcare, your HSA programs, everything that you have in place. And luckily, again, knock on wood, Kelly and Megan positioned intentionally with the best healthcare. So luckily that's covered. In the beginning, executive physicals are extremely expensive. I will warn you right now, sticker shock, $10,000 I paid.
You know, this is
Okay.
actually just on the Kardashians. I don't know how many people watch that, but Kris Jenner got one on one of the episodes, and I was like, wonder how much that is. Because I, like, you know, you associate the Kardashians with the very wealthy lifestyle. So you're like, wonder how much this is. But she did the exact same thing while you were talking about it. I was like, oh, I just
Yeah,
saw this happen. Yeah.
it is really expensive, but here's the thing. And look, anything expensive is worth, there's a value there that you might not see. The value for me going with Princeton Longevity Center was that they fast tracked me through the NYU Langone system, health system. I didn't have to interview my oncologist, my thoracic surgeon. I was immediately guided and shepherded through the system and in front of the best people. I've now been since shepherded through NYU. My oncologist, God bless him, Dr. Joshua Sabari, I'm in Pennsylvania here. So I'm at UPenn at the Penn Medicine, the Perelman Cancer Center, the Abramson Cancer Center, excuse me. And I'm working with Dr. Melina Marmalalis is my new oncologist. And today, again, I get scans. Right now, my scans show no evidence
Well, that's
of
great.
anything going on. I am on a really important thing, and then I'll shut up. Because I could talk, we could make the whole podcast about this, which is actually what In the Suite episode 84 is all about. I am on a medication that I take orally daily that, again, you know, we tend to, sometimes society bashes drug companies in a bad way. Thank God, because, you know, they've found, I'm on a certain medication that is has been statistically proven through research that it is a preventative for this particular form of lung cancer. They took my tumor, they sliced it, they diced it, they did all kinds of genetic testing right now. So cancer, specifically lung cancer, has come a long way. They're using targeted therapies. And again, you know, imagine the snipe shooter, and targeted therapy is the exact form of medication for the exact form of cancer. There are many targeted therapies across anything. So a big shout out to anybody that's dealing with cancer and that you have a relative dealing with cancer. It doesn't matter what age you are, and it doesn't matter what health you are. Make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that you guys are taking care of yourselves, and that, again, if health is a main priority for you, and it was for me, and that's why I opted to, you know, spend that kind of money, it saved my life.
How did you stay motivated going to work and with all this in the background or in the forefront, whichever? How did you get up every day and go to work and bring your best self?
I binge watched YouTube. And the first thing I did was I needed to see success stories of people who have beaten cancer. So I binge watched YouTube, and I had to do some like brainwashing on myself first and saying like, is it possible? Is it possible that people survive lung cancer? Yes. Is it possible that people survive cancer in general? Yes, it is. So I had to brainwash, and I just like YouTube. Every day I watched a different story about somebody that was having cancer and beating it. The YouTube channel that I watched was My Patient Story. And so that was number one. Number two, because I put myself out there, which not everybody's comfortable doing, I realized that I let the world know that I had lung cancer, regardless of the stereotype, because people were, I'm sure, thinking like, oh, does she smoke? Like, does she have like a habit, or like, yeah, no. I take really, really good care of myself, and was doing that even before the cancer. I decided to put myself out there because I said, if this could happen to me and I'm riding horses and doing Latin Pelotons and I don't smoke, this could happen to anybody. I could have easily dismissed this as menopause. And in the beginning, when I had symptoms, so like very, very light symptoms show up, I was like, yeah, no, I'm kind of getting older. Yeah, my times in Orange Theory are coming down. Yeah, I'm, a little bit older from this year, from last year. By putting myself out there, I was introduced to a stage 4 cancer survivor. And I interviewed her and I said, would you be willing to talk to me? She said, yes, I would be willing to talk to you. And I interviewed her and I said, if you could offer one piece of advice to me, Susan, what would it be? And she said, you know what, Tina, I always believed that I would be okay. And that's how I tried to convince my mind. I wrote it, I meditated on it, I journaled about it. And at the same time, I want to be totally open, I cried in the bathroom. I had meltdowns. Kelly and Megan will tell you, because they watched this whole thing unfold. There were days that I wasn't okay. There were days that I fell apart. Just because that you show like a positive face in the world, and this isn't even in cancer, this is just like in regular human life and regular business, it's okay. Sheryl Sandberg and her Lean In talks about her going into the bathroom and crying, and the whole thing, like that's just normal. But you won't find that in business books. And you know what? And it should be written that, some days you're not going to be okay and you're going to lose your SHIT, and that's perfectly normal. So give yourself permission to like lose it. This is Kiri. The first 7 months of my life this year has been utterly terrifying. Utterly terrifying. So, any business problem that you're dealing with right now, I hope that if you take anything away from this conversation, that it's like, you know what? It's surmountable. You got this, ladies and gentlemen, especially too with Curie's support, your coaching program, and the great work that you're doing with business owners and entrepreneurs in this podcast. You got this. A health problem is a totally different animal. So kind of put things in perspective. But even too, if you're battling something like this, and it's hard, it's still hard. Every day is hard for me. But you know what? I'm alive. I'm here. I believe that God has been good. I believe that I'm blessed and I'm highly favored. I very, very much believe that God had his hand in this. That's what I believe, and that's what I know to be true. So, keeping positive is constantly reminding yourself of the things that are going well in your life. No matter how difficult it is, if you're still alive, you still have a heartbeat, you still have a chance.
Which is easy to forget when you're not going through something that's so powerful and draining as that can be, and having health issues. I think it's sometimes my husband, my husband's very good at looking at like big picture. So, I'll be like complaining about something small. I'll be like, there's people in Ukraine right now who, and like that brings him comfort. For me, that's like hard to wrap my head around. But I think it's a good and important lesson to think about. Like, if you have your health, if that's so basic, like you can do anything once you have your health. And there have been times when I haven't had my health, and I know how draining that can be and how frustrating it is to try to move on and just be able to present that face to the world and get up every morning.
Yeah. And the other part of that is help. No matter what challenge you have, medical challenge, business challenge, financial challenge, get help from the experts, the people, or marketing help, branding help, get help from experts. That's why that is the base. I can't do this alone, not even close.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why, if you're open about the fact that you're having a business challenge or a health challenge or a financial challenge, you will attract help. If you're tight-lipped about it and you make pretend, you've got to use so much energy for that, by the way, to kind of show up. Tell people when you're having a bad day. Tell people that you're not sure. Tell people that you don't know the answer. That's such a better thing. And in my case, I was like, oh my God, I don't know anybody that has what I have. And the first thing I want to do is get help. You can get help from complete strangers. Chances are that there is a YouTube video on anything that you need help with.
Right.
Exactly. There's a podcast now for anything that you need help with, or, starting to be. Look for people who have done it and been successful at the problem that you have. And, and that will help you. Then you can be more positive and allow yourself to grieve and be negative too. Your life is like, it's not all Skittles and rainbows. Chemotherapy was wicked, awful, sickening. Probably the lowest point. It was worse than surgery. And surgery is, I had a chest tube. I have all this content, by the way, document this stuff for yourself too. Like, again, whatever challenge it is, I don't want it to be just like, insert challenge here in the brackets, right? Remind yourself, memorialize these things and, put them on a phone, use your phone to take notes and, to just document everything where you think you're falling short.
This is all just it's so inspiring. And thank you so much for sharing your journey and helping, because I'm sure there's some people who are really going to benefit from hearing this. And I think so. If you guys want to check out Tina's podcast, it's called In the Suite. And you said it was episode 84 or something?
Episode 84 coming out next month in August
2023. So this episode will launch later than August. So you guys can go back and look in and see that In the Suite episode 84 if you really want to get more in depth with Tina's story. So I do want to shift gears briefly and talk a little bit more about business. Can you lay out the steps you think that were most important that grew your business from 6 figures to 7?
Number one is setting a goal and writing that goal. We hear this all the time. SMART goals. You really need to make sure that goal is in front of you. And I always had that $1 million mark in front of me. That I thought was like the holy grail of success. So my first piece of advice is to know that you want to get there in the first place. You're going to have to write that down. Number two is understand that what got you to like 500 or 750 is different from what it is that gets you to the $1 million. There will be additional training, maybe additional specialists, resources. You need to grow and develop as a different leader, a leader of $1 million company versus a 5 million versus a 10 million. Those skill sets are different. So you're going to have to, tap into learning new skills. And number three is that you're going to make mistakes. Get over it. Forgive yourself for it. There are going to be some things that you're going to do that you're not so proud of, that are maybe not represent your best self, because you're going to learn more about yourself. You're going to be pressured in a way that you never have been. You're going to be battle tested. So, if you're going to get to that $1 million, understand that you're not going to get there perfectly and in a straight line. You're just not. Okay. So if perfection is a thing for you, and if you're one of those types that, that can't deal with, all hell breaking loose, sometimes it might not be for you.
Hmm.
This is not for the faint of heart, is I guess what I'm saying. Like, this is going to take a lot from you to get here.
Can you think off of the top of your head what was one of the biggest mistakes you think you made when you were growing your business?
Sure. I think that the biggest opportunity and the biggest growth that we had during the pandemic. So I would say my biggest mistake was around hiring. I hired a great group of people. Fantastic. Problem is that they were located all virtually. So I thought that remote work and virtual work was going to be not only a thing for the pandemic, but that it would even perpetuate outside of the pandemic. And what I didn't do right is I underestimated the length of time that would be true, and the value of in-person work. Like, I'm coming to you, Kiri, right from a physical office. I literally come into an office and we have a physical presence right outside of Philly. I wish that I would have done that at C-Suite. I backpedaled and did that towards the end and rented office space near at Tiger Labs, right outside of Princeton University. It's like a small, like, kind of incubator, kind of startup program over there. I should have done that from the beginning. There is a value to, there's magic, actually. It's not even a value. I'm not even going to say it's a value. Magic happens when people work together, especially after the pandemic. All of those, like, side conversations and, water cooler conversations, and just like even just showing up and saying good morning, or going to lunch, or asking somebody how they feel, or how was your day, or high-fiving them. We have a Lauren who's in her office this morning, just high five her. She crushed a webinar yesterday for a client. She's got another one at 12. Like, Kiri, I seriously underestimated the need to be physical. Was way too bullish on virtual work.
That's interesting, because you hear so many arguments about this right now. A lot of them. I think employees want the option to work from home. That's what I've been seeing for a lot of them. It offers that flexibility. They don't have that to worry about the commute. But there are, I think, especially for younger workers, I can't imagine not working in an office and having that experience. I think it would be really hard to jump into just remote all the time. Like, how do you build those connections? How do you learn? So for younger employees, I think it is important that they come in for the first year or something for 3 days a week at least. I don't know. And again, everyone says something different. I've interviewed people who are all about the remote. The contractors do not want to have this team in the office all the time and don't want that expense and don't think it's necessary. But everyone's so different, I think, in different industries too.
Yeah. And we have remote work here. So we have plenty. Again, we're almost a team of 25 between our independent contractors and some of the rest of the team. They are living in Colorado. They are living in Texas. So they are in different states. They're living in Omaha. So here's the thing, right? We get together as a group collectively about 3 to 4 times per year. And so there are some people, so intentionally affords the ability for someone to work strictly remote. But then again, they're here, they're still like partially physical when they come here for company offsites. when we're speaking and we're presenting at conferences, and when we're also too working on behalf of clients and, going to either their offices or representing them at events at, in different trade shows and whatnot. I think the workplace of today is a workplace that allows selection. It's understanding, what is your non-negotiable. We've got a few people that are employed that that are mothers and wives and have kids, and they want to be home, or they need to be home. And so a workplace that just allows for freedom of choice and the ability to be fluid.
I do like that. So I know we should probably wrap it up soon. I just want to kind of know, like, what advice do you think you have for other women as they're trying to grow their own business?
So the first thing I'll say is don't try to do it alone. No matter how great and no matter how smart, no matter how competent you are. I just saw a woman on Shark Tank, and she was really brilliant, very impressive vitae and schooling, and, and she was pitching by herself. And eventually she did get a deal from one of the sharks. But Kiri, I thought, like, you know what? She should have another person or another two people up with her. It would have made a real difference in her delivery and her pitch, and I even believe her eventual deal. So my first piece of advice is to partner. Now that I have the unbelievable opportunity working with Kelly and Megan and this unbelievable team, I'm no longer like floating on that, island by myself. I think a lot of reasons why I got sick was because that I was overstressed, I was overworked, I was like burning the candle at both ends for an extended period of time. I fought my body down so bad that it could no longer protect itself in the way that it needed to. Maybe if I had partners right from the beginning, you can bounce ideas. We all take care of one another. So if one person can't be there, another person can, to have backup, to have support system. I think it's been huge. I would never in a million years start another business, even think of starting a business or another initiative without a partner. That's how I think has been the secret to growth. And if you're like, oh, well, yeah, well, that's really great, Tina, but nope, I only want to just be a team of one, or that's okay. Look at partnerships, then look at your business aligning itself with other businesses, and, again, how you could make a better impact.
That's interesting, because I actually interviewed someone, I think 2 or 3 episodes ago, who did that advice. Who thought, I'm approaching 7 figures consistently, I'm going to get a partner, and it was a bad experience. It didn't go well.
Right.
So,
and I've heard that. So here's the other thing: get a partner and vet that partner. There's a thing I call the Toledo test. If you can drive with that, Toledo, Ohio is like a 12-hour drive from here. If you can drive with that person in a car for 12 hours and not kill each other and still love each other and care for each other at the end of the time, that could potentially be a viable partner. The problem is we don't vet the partners the way that we should. We need to know our non-negotiables. For me, it was walking into a culture of growth, a culture of caring and empowerment, and one that acknowledged my needs, my individual needs for family, for health reasons, and proximity was important to me. I knew that I wanted to work with people in an office back again.
Mm.
So, do your due diligence around your partners and know what are non-negotiables and have a way out. If it's like, okay, we always said we have open lines of communication. I've never looked back. I would have known if this wasn't going to work right from the get. So, build in an escape plan right from the beginning, no matter how much you love a person, care for that person.
A lot of people say it's a little bit like a prenup. Like make sure that you have
Yes,
it set up
exactly.
if you guys get a divorce.
Sure.
So where can we find you specifically? If our audience wants to connect with you and your story and what you've told and the advice, where can they connect with you and share with us also where they can find intentionally? And we'll put it all in the show notes.
Sure. So I'm all over social media. But if you had any social media entity to follow me on, I would say LinkedIn. You can follow me there, Tina Powell. The second thing is my email is tina@growintentionally.com. And that's spelled out the way that it sounds, growintentionally.com. So I would say, you could absolutely connect with me via email. And, it was funny, Kiri, today talking about this whole idea of putting yourself out there. I put a tweet out because I was at the cancer center yesterday to get the blood work done. I put that out. Sure enough, there's another cancer warrior in that Philly area. And she sent me she retweeted and tweeted at me. Then I said, hey, let's get together. And she DM'd me her cell phone number. So like
Amazing.
social media is like a great place. You just never know.
It's like the light side. We hear so much about the dark side of social media, and there's a lot with the
Yeah.
dark side, but there can be moments where, and I was thinking about this in your story too, when you're talking about the YouTube channel and how you motivated yourself and watched that and found success stories. I was like, there's this beautiful side of social media that we ignore, or we don't like to talk about because it doesn't get our emotions as riled up as the negativity. But this is like a perfect example of like how you found inspiration. And without social media, it would have been a very lonely journey for you, I feel like.
Absolutely. I belong to 2 Facebook groups. One of the first things I did on the diagnosis was, again, get help, find evidence of people who have done what you want to do. And so I joined 2 private Facebook groups one around lung cancer and the second around Tagrisso, the drug that I'm taking. And that's social media. You're exactly right, Kiri. It gets such a bad rap. I've got to tell you, in my lowest low periods, I go to those discussion groups again for help and to read what other people are struggling with and to be able to identify with their struggles. And again, to see a way out. How did they handle that? And those threads, like the ability to just search under your stage, the ability to search under a drug, the ability to search under a location. I have always been bullish on social media. My position hasn't changed. I think social media could itself be a lifesaver.
So thank you again for everything you've shared. Can you please give us one philosophy, mantra, or quote you try to run your business by?
Sure. So I couldn't wait for this question, Kiri, and I love your question. So for me, it sounds all like, again, cliche. I happen to join a business that has this name, but my big piece of advice and how I run my day and my business and everything that I do is about intentionality. So it is to be intentional. And what that means is it knows, what lights you up, what you're good at, know why you want to be in business, understand your non-negotiables, and how you want to make an impact. And it's how we, threaded this whole conversation, but it is around intentionality every single day. And that will continue. That's a business philosophy and that's a life philosophy.
I don't know if you know about this, but some people will, instead of doing New Year's resolutions, they'll pick a word that they want to define for themselves for the year. And I've never done that because I've never been able to really just pick one. And then all of a sudden, I think it was like 2 months ago, I said, I just want to start getting more intentional. And I said, oh my gosh, that's my word. Okay, it's 6 months late. I never got one for this year, but that is what it is going forward until I feel a shift. But right now it's be intentional. So I like that because that's resonating with me. And that is exactly what is going on with my business too. Be intentional. Let's be intentional and stop hobbling things together and being desperate, because that's kind of where I am, where I just like pick and choose, like, I need help with this. I need help with this. And let me put this all together. I need to start being more intentional and really getting something cohesive to move forward. So I love that. So anyway, Tina, thank you so much for joining, the knowledge that you shared. And for those of you listening, please sign up for the Tipping Jar of Wisdom, because Tina's going to be going into the exclusive content questions on how to grow your own business and actionable steps that you can take. So again, thank you so much for being on the show. We'll jump right into that.